Why are we always looking for the extraordinary? You may argue that we are not, but consider these extraordinary moments, and then I'll share an ordinary moment too and kind of give you the comparison. It's the bottom of the ninth. There are two outs. The score is tied. Bases are loaded. The count is 3-2. The crowd is on the edge of their seats. The cheering is deafening. The wind up, the pitch. Will we hear the crack of the bat and watch that little white sphere sail 400 feet into the stands for a grand slam? Or will we hear the ball hitting the catcher's mitt and the umpire declaring strike three? And we're set for extra innings. Either way that goes, it's an extraordinary moment. And then you have this ordinary moment. The score is 10-2, no one on base, two outs, and bottom of the ninth, people are already leaving the stands. Ordinary. A few evenings ago, this is another extraordinary moment. A few evenings ago, the sun was shining brightly except for this giant rain cloud that was hanging overhead, and it began to empty. The rain cloud began to empty, and as the rain came down and the sun shone through the rain, there was this brilliant, large rainbow that appeared in the eastern sky. It was beautiful. It was a double rainbow, too. People were on their front porches. They were in the street. They were gawking. They were taking pictures. News 25 weatherman Chuck Collins received a bunch of photos and that he shared on the air. Different people, different locations saw this. It was wonderful. It was an extraordinary moment. But here's another ordinary moment. The sky is gray. There's a nice shower of rain that drenches the thirsty earth, my thirsty garden. Just a little shower of rain, or something like yesterday when we had more than a shower of rain, but it helped to eliminate some of the dry that we've been experiencing. But, well, ordinary, right? Here's another extraordinary moment. Little Sarah is almost a year old, and she has worn out the knees of the onesie that she has on from crawling all over the place. She has not taken any steps yet. One evening, Mom and Dad are sitting on the couch. They're relaxing in front of the TV, watching one of their favorite shows, and they see little Sarah pull herself up to a standing position in front of the empty recliner, turns and lets go, and takes 3 steps toward them while they're sitting on the couch, or at least they were sitting on the couch. They both jump up and they hoot and they holler and make all over little Sarah for taking those first 3 steps. Isn't that an extraordinary moment? Absolutely. And then the more ordinary moment, little Sarah now has half a dozen teeth. She's a little cranky. Oh, she must be getting another tooth. Just give her a teething ring and let her go. Ordinary. 2 men were walking down the road. That sounds like the beginning of a good joke, right? Nope. Just the story that we find in Luke. Nothing spectacular about the walk or the day or the road. Just 2 guys who are deep in conversation. They are avoiding the larger stones in the middle of the road, maintaining a steady pace to get from point A to point B. They are a bit surprised when person number 3 joins them, but still that's not unusual. This is a public road. Person number 3 approaches and asks questions, joins the conversation. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Person number 3 at a certain point begins or appears to be going in a different direction. Maybe they reach a fork in the road and the 2 want to go one way and number 3 wants to go another way. But the 2, being very hospitable, realizing that it's nearing the end of the day, invite number 3 to dinner. Oh, you don't need to go any further. Come with us. Call it a day, they say to number 3. Join us for a bite to eat, something to drink. Pretty mundane stuff, yeah? Yep. And as dinner begins, number 3 takes the bread and breaks it and gives a piece each to the other 2. And something clicks at that moment, and number 3 is recognized for who he really is, Jesus, the one they had been talking about. It's a significant moment, and in some ways it's extraordinary. But to get caught up in this one extraordinary moment and forget the rest of the ordinary moments that these 3 have had would leave us wanting. It is in the ordinary moment that these 2 men who now recognize number 3 say, "Were not our hearts burning as he talked to us on the road, and I assume as he visited with them before breaking the bread?" Without those ordinary moments, would they have recognized Jesus at all? it's the $64,000 question, or if we inflate that, it's the zillion-dollar question, right? But my hunch is that without the ordinary moments, the extraordinary would be less extraordinary. Let's go back to those other events that I was talking about. The ninth inning thriller would not be as spectacular if it were not for the 10-2 games that gave the players the opportunity to hone their skills. The more ordinary moments giving them the opportunity to hone their abilities. The brilliant rainbow may not be as spectacular if other rainy days, or if not for other rainy days that direct our attention to the times when sun mixes with rain just right and we get those rainbows. Little Sarah's big moment of taking steps maybe wouldn't be as significant without all those times that she is being coached and coaxed by her parents. Come on, walk to mommy and dad. Just 2 weeks ago, we celebrated Easter. And Easter is a pretty big deal in the Christian tradition. Jesus was crucified. It's the story about Jesus' crucifixion, being buried, and then being raised again on the third day. The dead rising, resurrection. It's really quite extraordinary, and it's hard to argue that. I won't argue that. It is extraordinary, but there's always a but, right? But if this is what we come to expect all the time, that extraordinary moment, chances are we'll be disappointed, because more of life is the ordinary. And thank goodness for the story in Luke that Luke gives us to help us live within the ordinary. And the wonder of it is that even in the ordinary, we can meet Jesus. We often think it's in those extraordinary moments, those mountaintop experiences, but it's often in the valley or the ordinary where we meet Jesus. And if we expect that the only times we'll meet Jesus is the extraordinary moments, not only might we be disappointed, but we'll miss out on some of those wonderful ordinary moments when Jesus is present with us, really present with us, communicating with us in conversation or in our thoughts that challenge our thinking or our emotions or our feelings, or in those sights and sounds that nudge us to attention. Ordinary moments are not always, but can be sacred moments, and maybe more times so than the extraordinary moments. I've told the story to different people at different times, but during my growing up years on the farm, on one sunny, cool morning, while engaged in the most monotonous, ordinary task ever, cultivating corn, that new growth of corn I saw allowed my heart to burn. To imagine the Creator taking that new growth of corn from seed to multiple grains. Extraordinary, really, but it was in a very ordinary moment that allowed my heart to burn. Or a time at our annual conference, our Church of the Brethren annual conference, at an ordinary worship service. Nothing out of the ordinary about this worship service, the same things we normally do at those services. I witnessed an ordinary person, someone from the audience, share a bulletin with a wheelchair-bound woman who seemed lost without that piece of paper in her hand. And the way she lit up, her eyes got big, her smile broadened. It was a neat moment for her, and my heart burned within me. That moment, a moment when God was there, a Jesus moment, in a sense. I appreciate immensely a paragraph that Kirk Byron Jones shares with us in an article entitled Living by the Word. And the paragraph reads this way. He says, on the day of his resurrection, Jesus chooses to take a slow walk with two disciples and simply enjoy the conversation. It seems like Jesus is just happy to be breathing and moving about again. Message giving and miracle making are not at the top of his agenda. The sensational gives way to seeing, smelling, hearing, and touching. Doing gives way to being. Doing gives way to being. Sometimes doing are those extraordinary things, but our being is just the ordinary moments. But it's in those ordinary moments that Jesus becomes more real to us sometimes, and maybe more often. Doing gives way